The ugly truth is that a lot of readers abandon a book after just a couple of pages. It just didn't grab them. Watching this video is how you make sure that they don't abandon your book. We're gonna go through 9 first sentence strategies that you can use to make sure that your book is unputdownable. So check out number 1. It is tell the whole story in the first sentence. This seems absolutely crazy. I know, but this is a technique that you can use. You can give away the entire story in the first sentence, and yes, readers will still want to read it. This is a technique that John Irving uses. He says that he enjoys giving away most of the story in the very first sentence, and then the rest of the book is sort of filling in all the gaps and explaining how that story unfolded. So look at John Irving's A Prayer for Owen Meany. This is just a fantastic first sentence, and look how much narrative ground it covers. It really does tell you like everything that's going to happen in the book. First, we start with a statement that invites some curiosity. Doomed. Why is he doomed? That's such an intriguing verb to use right off the bat. And he's doomed to remember this character with a wrecked voice, which creates all sorts of mysteries. Following that, we get 3 not phrases. Not because of his voice. Okay, so this is doing characterization work. It's telling us something about the character. Not because he's the smallest person, which once again, that's doing characterization work. And the third not statement is not because he caused the mother's death. Oh, okay. So now that's adding to the plot. It is creating this mystery of how did this character cause the mother's death? And then the sentence ends with a but phrase. He's doomed to remember him because he made him a believer in God. Lastly, something that's really interesting is that the first time he mentions his name is at the very end of the sentence. So it's sort of working like a climax. If you say the name right at the very beginning, it takes the wind out of the sails. But if you wait and reserve it all the way till the end, then it's like a surprise at the end, like, oh, here's the character we're going to be talking about for this book. A second strategy that you might want to consider when starting your book is to tease the plot. For this one, we're going to be looking at The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. Now, this one's a little bit simpler than that John Irving example, but I think it hooks the reader's attention just as well. 10 days after the war ended, my sister Laura drove a car off the bridge. Okay, how can you write a sentence this good? Let's unpack it and figure out all the different pieces so you can imitate it. Now, why does she start with that initial phrase, right? One is it leads into the second phrase. 10 days after the war ended, what? We want to actually know like what happened. But I think the second reason why that initial phrase works so well is there's this irony. Wait, she survived all of World War II? And then she dies in a car accident? That's sad. Another great thing this first line does is it situates the reader in time, in a particular moment in history. So right off the bat, we know this is 10 days after the war, and soon we learn it was World War II. But another great thing this line does is it creates a mystery because we don't know after this first line whether she drove off the bridge purposefully or whether it was an accident. And the fourth excellent thing that you can learn from this that you want to use in your own writing is to create a family connection. The word sister here is doing a lot of work, right? Because we know that the narrator has something at stake in this story. It is her own family member that drove off this bridge. So we immediately feel sympathy for her. Hey, I have 2 ways that I can help all y'all writers out there. The first one is Bookfox Academy. This is my collection of 10 courses with over 230 videos that will guide you through the process of writing your book. So check that out. The second way, you need a little bit more one-on-one attention where you're getting feedback on your work. Well, that would be BOOKFOX LAB. And that is my coaching program that helps you make sure you have the best version of your book. The link to the Academy and the link to the lab are both in the description, so check them out. A third strategy that you might want to use for the first sentence of your book is to erect the stakes. For an example of how to do this, let's look at Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Everyone my age remembers where they were and what they were doing when they first heard about the contest. This is a great first line because one, it really ties you into sort of this historical moment, you know? The way that people always remember where they were when 9/11 happened or when JFK was shot or something like that, you know? Everyone remembers. It's this collective event. The second thing this is doing really well is that there are very high stakes, right? This contest must be incredibly important if everyone remembers what they were doing when they first heard about it. The third thing that this sentence is doing really well is that it's introducing the main plot. We can already see that this contest is going to be the bulk of what the story is about. And I might also point out that this is the very last word of the sentence, so that's the most important place in a sentence. So just like that John Irving example that ends with the name of Owen Meany, this one ends with the plot of It's a contest, people. And fourth and lastly, this is a sentence that creates mystery. Just like Margaret Atwood creating that mystery of what exactly did the sister do, this creates mystery with what is the contest? What's it gonna be like? So something you might want to do for this video is, as I'm going through things, like write down the techniques that you want to use to either write your first sentence or to revise your first sentence. This next strategy is only for you writers who want to have a little fun with your first sentence. It is number 4. Promise the genre pleasures. Let's look at a first sentence from Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings. Suzeth, son Villano, truthless of Shinovar, wore white on the day he was to kill a king. Take a look at that name again. Is there any mystery after reading that name about what sort of genre this book is going to be? No one's thinking that this is a cozy mystery or an enemies to lovers romance. No, we know right away from that name, oh yeah, this is fantasy. And it's kind of amazing just to have the name alone of your character doing so much of that work to draw the reader in. The reader's like, well, I want to know what Truthless of Shinovar actually means, and I want to know this guy's legacy because he's the son in the sun. Now, the second thing that this is doing well is something that any genre would do well. It starts the plot, right? We know that he's on a mission to kill the king. That's great. But it's also doing something which is particular to the fantasy genre, and that is world building. So we're wondering, why does he wear white to kill a king? Is that like a custom or tradition among their people? And we learn in a couple of pages is that it's kind of a point of pride for these people when they are trying to assassinate to someone to wear white to try not to blend in. They're like, they should know we're coming. I mean, you gotta admit that's kind of awesome. And then even later on, we learn, oh, it's traditional for people to wear white during war rituals. But can you believe it? Like how much Sanderson packs into this single first sentence. It's not even that long, right? It's like barely a line long, but he's doing so much work to establish the genre, promise the genre's pleasures, start the plot, and hook the reader so that they cannot get away. Great beginning to the book, by the way. Great book. And hey, if you're a writer that's willing to do anything to publish their book, then you are already one of us. So go ahead, join the Bookfox clan, hit that subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, hit the like button. A fifth strategy for the beginning of your book is to focus on the details. Now, I am not talking about details about the place or details about the weather. Those are description details, and a lot of the time they're just not very exciting. No, the details that I'm talking about are details that apply to your plot. What is something that can get the plot rolling right off the bat? To show us how to do this well, let's look at My Sister, the Serial Killer by Owinken Braithwaite. I bet you didn't know that bleach masks the smell of blood. So right away, this sort of detail gets us into the scene. We know that she is at a murder, cleaning up the blood for that wicked serial murderer sister of hers. But a second thing that we learn just from this one sentence is a little bit of characterization. She is the type of person who has done this before. This isn't the first time, right? She's got a little bit of experience. Like, let me tell you, there's this special trick to bleach. It doesn't just, wipe away the blood, it also masks the smell. And then a third thing that I think this first line does really well is that it establishes this very intimate, colloquial voice. She's talking directly to the reader, right? She's saying you. Hey, I bet you didn't know this. So there's not a lot of distance between the teller of the story and the person who's listening to the story. What that does is it sort of coaxes or invites the reader in, like, hey, let me tell you a story. And that kind of voice is a really great way to grab the reader's attention. You're gonna love this next one. I promise. I really do promise. It is number 6, build up a character. Let's look at the first line of Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson. Stephenson is one of those authors who seems like he can jump to a whole bunch of different genres, and whatever he touches seems to be golden. And the first line here is, the Deliberator belongs to an elite order, a hollowed subcategory. Okay, so like the Brandon Sanderson example, this is tipping the hat to what genre it is right off the bat, right? Deliberator, okay, that sounds sort of techie, it sounds sort of futuristic. All right, we're already in a sort of sci-fi genre. Another genre that gets bandied about a lot with this book is cyberpunk, right? Which is sort of like a subcategory of sci-fi. A second thing that this sentence is doing really well is it's kind of hilarious once you recognize what the elite and hollowed order is. He's a pizza delivery guy. And the whole first chapter is this madcap journey of like trying to deliver a pizza and all the people who are after him and all the obstacles that get in his way. I mean, it's a great opening to the book. I think that the technique that Stevenson's using here is hyperbole. Yes, he's only a pizza delivery guy, but this is hollowed an elite subcategory in order. And it also makes us feel like, hey, this is an important character. This is not just some schmuck out there who's the delivery guy. No. This is the real deal. You're going to follow this guy's adventures and you're going to like it. This next strategy is a very, very smart one. It is number 7. Introduce contradictory themes. So of course you could just like introduce the theme in your first sentence, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's not a bad decision. But this example is about contradictory themes, 2 themes that seem to be at odds with one another. We're going to look at Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. So this is a book that wrestles a lot with both faith and drug addiction. And I like how those 2 themes are sort of at odds with one another. You're like, these don't seem to be good bedfellows in any way, but you know, I mean, that's what this character is struggling with. Something else that this first sentence is doing really well is that it's a nice marriage of both the positive and the negative. So God finally speaking to him, that sounds great, right? He's getting this epiphany. He's finally learning what his life should be about. But then there's some sort of disappointment with that. The very last word of the whole sentence is do-over. It's like, what do you mean he wants a do-over? So once again, that theme in this whole video is the very last word of your first sentence needs to be very important. And this continues that theme. So this sentence lifts us up. I finally heard from God, and then crashes us down. I just want a do-over. Something went badly about this communication. A third thing that I just like to point out about this is that it does a great job starting at the inciting incident. If you're trying to figure out where to start your book, then this sentence shows you, okay, we had 27 years where, I don't know, maybe not much happened, but then suddenly we have this inciting incident where God speaks to him. And that's where he chooses to begin the story because it's a departure from the norm. Find the departure from the norm in your book and start right there. And I don't mean like at the end of the first chapter, I mean in the first sentence. What if I spoke like that all the time? You would get annoyed and you'd unfollow me, so please don't. Lastly, I think something else is really great about this first sentence is that it has a lot of energy and it promises that reading this is going to be a lot of fun, right? And if you think there's going to be, you know, addiction and drugs in it, you are correct. Although, you know, it's not really a good experience for him, but still, maybe you're a little voyeuristic and you're like, I want to see what this guy does. So that curiosity forces you to read the book. This next strategy is probably the most underused strategy when starting your book, and that's because it's honestly kind of hard to pull off. It is number 8. Create a mood. Let's look at Susanna Clarke's Piranesi. This first sentence is going to absolutely blow you away. When the moon rose in the 3rd northern hall, I went to the 9th vestibule to witness the joining of 3 tides. Whoa. Yeah, that is otherworldly. We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. We have moons and tides and halls and vestibules, and I'm like, I don't know where we are. Like, I'm clearly on a different journey. So once again, like the fantasy examples and the sci-fi examples by Stevenson and by Brandon Sanderson, we get a sense of the genre from the first sentence. Is like, this is a crazy otherworldly place, and it is a fantastical place. Now, there is some risk in confusing the reader with these place names. The 3rd Northern Hall, the 9th vestibule. But here's the secret of what she's doing, is that this confusion is intentional. This is a book about a labyrinth. So she wants to make the reader feel like they are entering a labyrinth type space and are confused about this environment. So sneaky and so good. And one other thing I'd like to point out is that the capitalization is actually doing a lot of work here. You don't normally capitalize moon. You don't normally capitalize tides. Why is the author capitalizing those? It's because she wants to make you feel that this main character, Piranesi, is like very connected to this place, connected to the environment. And so to him, these things are capitalized because they're that more important. So don't always feel like you have to abide by, you know, English composition type rules or copy editor type rules when writing your book. If you have a particular reason for capitalizing certain things because that's what the character would do, feel free to do that. So let's look at our final example. You're going to enjoy this one. It is number 9. showcase the character journey. And the example we're looking at is from Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts. When breaking this down, I'm actually going to start at the end of the sentence with the chained to a wall and being tortured, because the first part of the sentence is all abstract, right? It's very high ideals. It's like what he's learned in life. But I love that he pairs that up to a very concrete event that gives us a sense of what has happened to him and immediately draws us into the scene and to the plot. It's difficult to write a 100% abstract line for your first line and have it work as a way to get the reader interested in this story. So I think it's a really great strategy to pair up that concrete with the abstract. But the second and perhaps even more important observation is that this is a first line which promises where the character is going. It promises that it's going to take this character on a journey to having an epiphany, to learning all this stuff about life and love and fate. Really, the first sentence of your book is always a promise to the reader. It promises them, oh, this is what I'm going to deliver to you as a reader. These are the sort of pleasures I'm going to give you. And this first sentence is also introducing the themes of the book, like we've seen in some of the other examples. It is talking about love and fate, and most importantly, choices, how important choices are for where our life ends up. Okay, I'm going to put a link to Bookfox Academy in the description below, and I'm also going to put a link to Bookfox LAB. So if either of those options can help you in your author journey, please check them out. And I also hope that, man, you have a dynamite first sentence now, or you feel equipped to write the absolute best sentence you possibly can. Happy writing.